And hello again, everyone. It's your boy Electric. Calmed 2 games of Odyssey, but now back to the basics with Super Mario 64 70 star. We've got a Division 2 race between Pete and Drogie coming up for you today. So, really excited to see what these guys have in store. Drogie, I believe I've calmed 1 or 2 of his races before and been a force to be reckoned with in those. But Pete, from what I've seen of his skill, he's certainly also not going to give this one up easy. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out. And 70 star, Odyssey, I love the game. I run it personally, but there's just a lot of waiting, watching. This game, you just get right into the action. Within about 5 minutes, someone's developed a pretty decent lead that if it's in the right hands, they'll be able to hold on to it for a good 30 minutes if they choose. So it really just kind of comes down to who's feeling better on the given day, who's playing more consistently in this given race. So let's see what the cards hold in store today. Both playing on the Optimo English version for 70 star. Have to deal with a little bit of time loss to this initial cutscene since Peach actually has to read out the letter rather than just letting you read it yourself. But the text boxes end up working out just a bit better. Even though Japanese characters can convey more information per character, the text boxes in this game load by box. And there are a couple of boxes where the grouping is actually less on English due to just the amount of room that Japanese characters take up. So in this particular case. Plus, you don't have to deal with, for instance, in JRB, there's a star that's normally in a box in English that isn't in a box on Japanese, but in this case, it doesn't matter for these players. So those little version differences will actually go to your benefit in English since you can't get sound glitch anywhere near as easily. And both of them with a high Lakitu skip synchronizing as they go into BOB. D2, so definitely expecting to just see a couple of bomb clips and then get on out of there, save the rest of this level for sky jump later on. Let's see how these bomb clips go. It's one of those tricks that as you very first start your Mario career, once you get the Usamoon practice ROM and you start practicing around with it, it's pretty well one of the first things you start trying to master. And it's, as we see from Pete's end, it's something that isn't always the most consistent in the world, but Drogie making it look super easy. What's really difficult about that is grabbing the bomb at the proper time to actually get this slide backwards and then getting perpendicular. If you don't manage to get perpendicular with that cage, you'll just slip right beside the bomb. You won't actually go anywhere with it. And having to respawn him yet again because of a failed explosion. This is not a good start of the race for Pete whatsoever. Drogie moving into the slide, though. Let's go ahead and ignore the Mario meltdown happening on Pete's screen for just a moment. After he's gotten his bomb clip here, he's just going to be doing some castle movement. Chat, I want to see some speedrun fires. I just want to see some clocks, some everything, because Drogie is in the slide, and I want to see some predictions. I'm personally thinking with the way that that jump ended up, 12-8. And consulting the script is sometimes a good idea, given that Drogie just scored a 12-7. Let's see what Pete manages on his end for his first slide. You know, I don't think there's any in between. It's either going to be a 12-7 to match Drogie or like a 13-3 after that failed bomb clip. I think that either he's going to still be kind of rattled over that, or he's definitely going to have kind of pushed that out of his mind, really exercised meditation, contacted his guru, and arranged for a meditation circle to be at his house tonight. 12-9, exactly in between 12-7 and 13-3 if you are using some very strange mathematical system. But it works sub 13 as Drogie already in Womps executing Owless and Pete right behind him on that entry. So Drogie's really not leaving him that much room to breathe, but Pete, after that major meltdown, really holding it together pretty well, all things considered. Near synchronized painting entries, but unfortunately with completely different star counts. Let's see what Pete decides to go for first here. Drogie on his way over to Cannonless as Pete is attempting his own Owless. Drogie's attempt is good. Kind of a strange camera angle there, and Pete failing Owless is going to have to go ahead and go for the sock folder setup Cannonless. Let's see if this is at least able to work for him, or, okay, not incurring any more time loss. He really can't afford any more of that starting at the very beginning of this race. I mean, to start a race with so many failed attempts on bomb clip, it just does not feel good, especially when you've got a fundamentally pretty similar but even more difficult trick in Pillarless coming up inevitably. I don't believe there's any sort of 70-star route that would manage to skip pillarless, or if there is, it honestly loses a lot more time than you would like to. So, I mean, on the one hand, I'm sure Pete's not feeling great about a trick like that, especially given the amount of trouble Alice is giving him right now. Finally getting it on that third attempt. But I mean, Pete really doesn't have much of a choice if he wants to really remain a contender in this race. He's not in a position right now to be able to dictate, hey, I can lose this many seconds by taking a slightly slower route. He really needs to be kind of already fighting for as much time saving as he can get, which 5 minutes into the run, that is not where you want to be. So we see him going into his 100 coin, Drogie making short work of it, and Pete already missing 1 coin, still on path for, I believe, the full cycle. Didn't see, and managing to get the In the Wild blue star grab there. That is, that's some time loss you don't want to take at all. After having, I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a deal if it weren't for all the extra movement that you've done just grabbing coins all the way up to that point. Normally, I mean, yeah, you just restart the stage, but if you looked at his coin counter, he was already a third of the way through the 100 coin start. That just hurts. I mean, the start of this race has not been kind whatsoever for Pete. In fact, Drogie, meanwhile, actually missing the strat to get up to that Into the Wild blue star. So we have one runner a little bit too eager to grab it, and another one a little bit unable to, it looks like. I mean, if you're in Pete's position right now, what you're probably hoping for, in all honesty, is Drogie's console to crash. Because, I mean, this is really not how you want to start up a race at such an extreme deficit. You really want to have a start where, if later on things start to fall apart, it's not so big of a deal, rather than having to just corner yourself into perfection for the rest of the race. But we'll see if he can manage it. We'll see what Drogie ends up pulling out throughout the rest of his run, because he's only really 1 stage in. I wouldn't really consider going for Bomb Clip a notable enough attempt to warrant calling the OBA stage just yet. So, I mean, there's a lot that can happen between now and the very end of the game that could go in Pete's favor very easily. So don't count him out of this one, although that star count at the moment looking a little bit grim. Yes, the spaghetti is all around. It is a spaghetti kitchen on Pete's end of the screen. Needs to go file for a patent for that technology that allows pasta and sauce to be transferred through LCD screen technology. Gonna make top dollar on that, I'm sure. I mean, you know, not many restaurants offer spaghetti as instantaneously. You don't really have fast food spaghetti, so especially not of your mother's quality. And everyone knows that mom's spaghetti is the top quality. So Drogie, a full top of the fortress star over Pete, and then some change, of course. Going into the second slide, though, let's go ahead and, kind of step back from the race pace for just a moment and talk about this slide. I'm thinking this time around, Drogie is going to be landing a 12-8. I know that was my prediction first time. That was also wrong. And this one was also wrong with a 12-7. Would have been a lot better off just changing my prediction, but Commentator a little bit too stubborn in his psychic abilities and paying for it as a result. That lonely 100 milliseconds off of the accurate timing. It's a tough day. It's a tough day. Let's see how Drogie does in the hardest star in the game, the wing cap star. Gotta grab these twins first and then manage the absolute abysmal flying mechanics. If these developers spent 6 months and had a dedicated team on Mario's walking movement and such, they probably just sent one lonely intern into a back office for about 3 minutes in order to come up with the flying and the swimming together. But Drogie making pretty short work of it. The arcs just aren't very intuitive. It's just kind of weird how exactly you have to navigate the control stick throughout these sections. And the actual movement on screen doesn't exactly convey all the difficulty that's really involved on the controller side. So really, really good flying from Drogie's side, as Pete is going to be entering that star, as well as Drogie pops into the Dark World. So let's see if he's able to hold on to this pretty substantial lead he's built up for himself, because really, I think a death in the later half of Dark World could pretty well make up this lead for Pete. And Pete in this wing cap stage, getting those twins successfully, having a bit more shallow arcs, not really a big fan of this flying, taking a lot of horizontal stuff. That's really what you want to avoid. The more horizontal you are at any given time, the slower Mario goes for whatever reason. And especially if you're having to do really, really dramatic upswings in your flying, that can also cause a lot of just really, really big losses in your horizontal momentum. But Drogie getting that kick there instead of the dive, pretty well safe for the rest of Dark World unless he gets Goomba trolled right on the end here. Goomba seems to be playing nice overall, in a bit of an iffy position, but he's good to go. Side flip, not even bothering with the double wall kicks there. And he is on his way into the fight, a full Dark World movement ahead of Heat. So as it stands, Drogie coming out of the start of this race with just an enormous lead. He's got to be sitting tall, feeling comfortable in the rest of this race. But it really can't be understated. I mean, Drogie got I'm pretty sure that was a Shig cycle looking at his moving platforms. And Pete, if he hadn't gotten amped right there, would have been on about pace for the same. Pretty unfortunate. I mean, if you see how long he had to wait there, that pretty well proves to you that he was on definite pace for that Shig. And just not able to match due to that kind of just weird positioning. It's kind of ridiculous how in the speedrunning route, those amps are still really, really close in their cycle to where you're going to be, no matter what. There's not a whole lot you can do movement-wise to make sure that you avoid them 100% of the time. And Drogie going for sky jump now after a nice, clean, single throw first Bowser fight. I mean, this one's pretty well textbook. You really can't do a whole lot to mess up this Bowser fight, in all honesty. Drogie showing us how sky jump is supposed to be performed. Let's see if Pete can match in his own attempt, but I'm sure he will. Making quick work also of this first Bowser fight. And, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I wonder how many people as a percentage actually died to this first Bowser fight. I wonder if it's really unexpectedly high or if it's actually somehow zero. I'd love to see if it were zero, but also like if it were 70% of people or something. Just generally, I would give a lot of things to be just a fly on the wall of the average person's first experience with this game in 1996. Imagine only having played 2D games and then you bring home an N64 and pop this in. Just mind-blowing stuff like that wall kicks will work execution from Drogie. Going for that advanced backflipping strat and making those wall kicks do wonders for him. And Pete getting a successful sky jump too as Drogie goes ahead and takes the penguin on his up-team roller coaster ride. You know, whenever you're just surrounded with ice, life finds a way to entertain itself through a random stranger with a mustache picking you up and sliding you down a mountain. So Pete going to be joining him now in CCM, that cold, cold mountain. You know what's cooler than being cool? Not missing every single coin on your way into that chimney when you're doing the CCM 18 route. And also ice cold. Very nice slide execution from Drogie, though, committing to that CCM 18 route. And nice moonwalk there. That was pretty nice. Looked like a little bit iffy at at the start on the ice. Looked like he was in danger of kind of falling off the left side there, but making it work super well for him and getting a nice exit out of that door. So Pete now going to be finishing up his own penguin. And Drogie moving now into CCM's 17th and 18th stars. So the coin collecting here is a little bit Monka-esque at the end. So if you're new to watching 70-star runs, there's two basic routes that you can do, and this is the point where you would see them actually make a difference. So what you're seeing Drogie do, and it looks like Pete pretty well committing to it as well, is called the CCM 18 route, which means that you're getting 18 stars before you leave this level. The difference is whether you decide to do the 100 coin star either with the first slide without the penguin race or with the second slide with the penguin race. In the case of 18, you do it with the penguin race. And right there on Drogie's screen, you see why it's a bit iffy. Because if you enter with, I don't believe he got the safety red. So that was the only coin he can miss over this entire slide. And the big difference is the star for no penguin race spawns outside the cabin. The star for with penguin race spawns inside the cabin. So if you don't have enough coins at the end of this race, which Drogie, not missing any more, was able to have just enough, if you miss one too many or something, you have to back up with just something that loses at least a minute and a half. It's a dead run pretty much if you weren't in a race situation. And we see Pete going for the safety red right there. If you have a coin count of 21 before you actually do this jump into the chimney, you can, yeah, getting all the coins in that line there, you could miss up to 3 on this slide right here. And you'll actually see Pete kind of have to go out of his way to miss a couple, because if you have too many going into that last stretch of coins and the star spawns too early up the ice ramp, it's really, really slow backing up and getting to it. So taking the opportunity to skip that first coin on that loop that's honestly pretty precise, and also missing that very last one in that shortcut route. So setting himself up to miss the traditional third to last coin in this upcoming row right here. Yep, just kind of pops right by it. And now he is back down at the bottom. So great execution from both of these guys in CCM. Pete, a little bit of a flub right there on that ending. I think Drogie ended up coming away with a couple of other seconds. But ultimately, Pete still in this for sure. But I mean, when you see this synchronized star generation, one player being in BBH and the other getting the Penguin star, you certainly know that one player's got his work cut out for him. That's for sure. Drogie got one more in BBH as Pete is going to be joining him. So at least the two are going to be in the same level consistently. And then after this, both of them will be going into the basement for SSL, going for their pillarless attempts. Now, because they're doing the CCM 18 route, one of the things that allows for is to completely skip having to deal with the double pillarless. In CCM 17, you can either go slower than or faster than CCM 18, depending on whether you decide to do double pillarless. It's really, really difficult, but if you go for it, it does actually save time over the CCM 18 route if you get it first try. And it still lets you go to HMC early despite, HMC late, despite only getting 17 stars in CCM. If you don't go for double pillarless with CCM 17, that's whenever you actually have to do HMC early no matter what, because you'll only have 29 stars coming out of Triple L. Anyway, sorry for all of that explanation for people that have watched the stream a number of times. Figured that we should catch the new people up every so often, just like we're catching up to this MIPS for the umpteenth time. Drogie not opting for any super fancy grabs this time around, which you really can't blame him. I believe it's a punch grab that's more inconsistent, and it doesn't save very much time at all, only like half a second if that. Now let's see how Pete handles the ending of his BBH as Drogie. Good start to pillarless so far. Let's see. And, okay, getting past the box. The clip is good. Okay, that's pretty well picture perfect for a race situation. A couple of things lose like a little bit of time there, but nowhere near the time loss that we've seen from people that either just straight up die, end up having to get a bomb re-grab, whatever the case may be. Only losing like maybe 1.5 seconds total to just having a bit of trouble getting up a hill and then clipping. So very, very nice from Drogie, not leaving anything on the table for Pete really to pick up. And let's see what Pete decides to go for because of that. And Pete also with that instant MIPS grab. You hate to see someone, especially when they're behind, missing MIPS and having to just chase them all the way around the basement to get that re-grab. It can just be kind of ridiculous. So Pete's going to be going in for his pillarless attempt now. Let's see how the bomb grab goes. Okay, looks like he's got that bigger bomb. Having a little bit... Okay, using that standard setup, I think. I don't think that was actually trouble getting up the hill. And it's clean, too. Okay, so pillarless not giving either of these guys any troubles. That's the way you like to kind of see it go in a run. It's really kind of a shame when a huge lead develops just because of someone that's not able to get pillarless. But in this case, that not happening. Both first try, which honestly, pretty awesome for D2. Pretty hype, so give it up for these guys in the chat. Drogie moving on to Triple L as Pete's going to be finishing up his SSL. Let's see what Drogie's got going into this level, because there can still be some pretty convoluted starts here as well. Yeah, Drogie definitely on a very hot run right now. I can't really think of any major mistakes that he's made. Any given star I can think of, he's executed really well on. Even if Pete were really in top form today and hadn't had that just awful time loss to Bomb Clip, he'd still probably be in at least a 15-second deficit, I think. It would be a decent period of time still, just because Drogie's been playing out of his mind. Let's see now. Drogie making his way over to Boil the Big Bully. And side flip kick makes him go right into the lava. Very clean. Not even needing any sort of ground pound movement. That's going to be saved for the triples in just a second. Triple L, one of those stages, the stars are fast enough. You get to see nearly all of them, save for the 100 coin star, unfortunately. And the triple bully is next up on Drogie's docket. Drogie opting for, I think he's saving all the volcano stars for last. I believe he already got his reds as well. So, personally, I think it's a bit better when a runner, oh no, falling in at the same time as those bullies. Avoiding the lava glitch though, if you hit the lava on the exact same frame as one of the bullies, it will not die, and you have to take a backup star. There is no way to recover from that. The one time I've seen it happen in a race run, they were on the triples and they had to go do big bully. Thankfully, they hadn't already done big. And that can also happen with the big bully though. So it can either happen with one of the three at the start, or either of the big bullies, either the one that has the standalone star or the one that appears later. So anytime you see a player fall into the lava, it's a huge Monka S moment because you really don't want them to fall in on that specific frame. Drogie going into the volcano now, that's certainly not something you want to see right before a trick like Lava Boost, because that will easily rattle a player, and Lava Boost requires just relying on that muscle memory you built up over hours and hours of practice. And as we see here, Drogie executing beautifully, relying on that muscle memory, and it pulling off in droves. And so Pete now moving to his own triple bullies. Let's see if he can get at least a cleaner kill here. Opting for the kicking strat, and definitely cleaner than Drogie's, honestly, probably dirtiest possible execution there. Drogie now, meanwhile, going for the elevator star. This one, not a particularly Monka S moment after all the rest of what he's been through. Getting that nice rollout on the end platform. Now, that's really the only thing with this star I found that as long as the entry goes well, if you mess up that first lava bounce jump, then things get a little hectic. But as long as you get that jump good, really the only other big issue with that trick is that last little rollout. Rolling out at just the wrong time can cause you to bonk on that platform that the star is actually on. Pete with the triple jump lava boost strat, and you get to see just how much of a height increase you get based on a triple jump rather than a long jump there. So on any of those strats where you can use multiple jumps like that, that's the reason why some of them are faster, because they give you more horizontal speed at the cost of a little bit of height. And it just so happens that in this case, like, the triple jump has way too much height, and the long jump gives you just enough height. And so Drogie now with his swimming, as Pete going to be finishing up triple L. He's got his volcano final star, and he's been holding his own actually through the entire basement. It's really got to be said. He had a really rough start to this run, but he's quickly recovered, and he's playing at a very nice level right now. Pretty well matching Drogie. Pretty well synchronized star grabs. So about the castle movement over to Triple D and a single chest star ahead. Yeah, sub 21:30 in a race. This is a wild race for Drogie at the moment. I'm curious how his run right now is comparing with his PV splits. I'll have to see if I can find his PV. But I don't want to take my eyes off the action anytime soon, seeing as how Drogie taking it safe, taking it easy with the rear sub. Pete going to be going in for his chest, and Drogie in a couple more stars going to be heading into the Fire Sea. So if anyone else is willing to check PB split comparison, Commentator would greatly appreciate, because Drogie may actually be in a decent position running against right now, because he's on a pretty good run. Going for that Manta Ray star now. Let's hope that the Manta decides to play well. These rings don't like the ring shape in polygons isn't the actual hitbox whatsoever. And so, and plus, if you miss one, the timer resets on all of them. And the rings can be really weird too with how exactly they fade out. Like you think you have X number of frames to hit the ring, and you actually have like probably, I don't know, like half a second less or so, just because of how quickly it suddenly just gone. And just like that, Drogie is done with Triple D and going to be moving into Fire C. Let's see how his with Reds movement goes. On pace for Lava Boost at the moment. But here's really the critical junction. He's got that coin, got the other. Let's see if he can execute the movement to get up to the upper platform. And he is now on the second deck. Okay, getting a ledge grab there and a ground pound. Lava Boost not looking the best anymore, but certainly still on pace for early LEs, leaving a few seconds on the table for Pete to pick up. Pete going to be joining him in just a moment after he gets his own Mana Ray Star. Let's see if he's able to make this early cycle work, and he does. Okay. So not clenching early LEs, but still managing early cycle, more than likely with bad ending. This is good for Drogie. I mean, with as fire of a run as Drogie has been having, you know, this certainly is not anything to be upset about at all in grand scheme. Actually opting to completely skip over the bad ending by going above these platforms rather than through the lava there. Having to take a little bit of an awkward detour, though, to actually get up to the star because of that. But it's important to state that if Pete manages to pull out Lava Boost, that is going to be a cool few seconds that he can pick up pretty well for free. Yeah. Rock Chalk in chat saying that this is a 48 tier run. I can easily believe that. That is, it's been looking really, really solid so far. And being that it's D2, I would think that Drogie's PB is either a high 48 or a low 49. Maybe even a higher 49. So this could easily be kind of one of those Rommel situations for him. But meanwhile, Pete on track. Okay, Lava Boost was certainly iffy. I wouldn't have gone for it either. I think if he's got a decent ending lined up for this level, he's going to be able to save a second or two over Drogie, but more than likely going to be pretty well even with him. Yeah, I mean, if you were watching kind of like the width of the lava there, yeah, he's going to be pulling out a bad ending, which I think will be a bit faster since Drogie opted for the over movement for whatever reason. Yeah, I feel like this side flip movement is going to be faster and gain him a couple of seconds here. So not getting anywhere near as much time as he could have, but still gaining some time over Drogie, who is moving his way into Wet Dry World to start out his 100 coin. Nice spider manipulation and double box kicks. Cool. You don't see a whole lot of people go for that, but with well, a decent number do it now, but some of them have greater success rates than others. It's all about the angle specifically that you kick at, and by doing the kick motion, and I think you have to hold the control stick backwards as part of it. Going ahead and missing his one coin there, you can only miss one throughout this 100 coin route, so that RNG kind of causing him to lose it early. What's really unfortunate about this coin routing is that you've got the chuck you 5 coins at the end, and depending on how exactly those coins decide to behave, those could be one of the ones that you have to miss. And if you end up missing more than one throughout this route, the backup is pretty slow overall. But yeah, by forcing Mario's momentum backwards after the kick like that, you're able to extend the kick's damage range just enough to hit both those boxes, and it's so cool when it's executed well. And the RNG treating him really, really well that time around. The coins having basically no bounce to them. If you've never looked at Pan and Coex's videos, first off, I'd highly recommend it if you're interested in how this game runs at the very base level. But he's found that whenever a coin spawns, the game actually calls the RNG function 3 separate times to determine how the coin will move in the X, Y, and Z axes. So every single time like you break open a 10 coin box, every single one of those coins could move in a completely random direction in any of those 3 cardinal directions, and obviously like with diagonals. So that's why you sometimes see them breaking open 10 coin boxes and everything looks pretty chill, and then you just have one go way off to the side. And so in this particular case, it's kind of weird that coin spawning ends up being such a predominant source of RNG, but with how tight the actual movement is on these coin routes, it's not a huge surprise that this game's honestly main source of RNG is those coin spawn points. But I mean, hey, better than having to duel an opponent for like 17 hours to get a Meteor Black Dragon, right? And so both of them doing pretty well on the elevators. Drogie with that nice wall kick up there. I think Pete yeah, Pete taking a vastly different order, opting for the teleportation star first, or as one of his first ones. Both of them have 100 coin out of the way, kind of cleaning up the rest of the stage now with the top of the town star. Neither of them making any major mistakes. And as soon as I say that, Drogie failing to get that side flip input out. Side flips in both this and also kind of an Odyssey can be a little bit finicky sometimes. I've done a little bit of experimentation, and I found that you don't have to go perfectly through the middle neutral zone of the stick to get the side flip to register, but it can still be kind of weird actually getting the input out quickly when you're having to move kind of around the arc. Because I've gotten Mario to side flip going from the forward to back position, going through like the left gate, but it's very, very easy to do it just slowly enough that the game doesn't quite process it right. And Pete also getting kind of bad RNG there, but opting to turn back around and pick up one of those coins real quick as Drogie making quick work of THI secrets. Instant upwarp there and just super clean movement. He's on a heck of a run at the moment. Pete, meanwhile, getting amped there. That's probably the most frustrating amp because and especially it can be a little bit hard to think of if you've never run this game, but that particular tower, you got, I think, 6 coins that you can't really see very well with the camera that you're having to get from behind the tower. Could be less than that, but the amp is moving counter to the way that you're moving Mario, and you're having to get Mario to run around as fast as possible this tower without either A, hitting the amp, or B, sliding against the wall. It's a very, very weird thing to have to do quickly, and it certainly shows whenever people get zapped like that. Especially when you're going around back of the platform and it's a completely blind gap. Like there's no real way to see where exactly Mario is there without flipping the camera, and you're never going to see someone do that. So Drogie, meanwhile, getting both his secrets and top of the mountain stars. So going to be making his way into Mario's Exterminator minigame in this game, and Pete, meanwhile, going to be doing his own secrets. And looks decently quick so far. Kind of lost a little bit of horizontal speed there, but overall good. And meanwhile, Drogie, nice piranha plants. He's up 2 stars going into TTM, but this is really where things start to heat up a considerable amount. TTM, just an infamous, notorious stage in 70 star and really all runs that get to the upstairs because it's just such an unforgiving stage. First off, you have both of your top of the mountain type stars, one that's behind the waterfall, one that's actually on top, that both require the mountain clip that's pretty difficult and also the log wall kick. That one thing that you may not quite realize if you don't run this game is it's not just about executing like the exact same inputs every single time. The log wall kick is a great example of that. Because if you get a first frame wall kick, the way that you have to react to that, like Drogie just did right there, actually, is completely different than what you would do for a second or later frame wall kick there. So because the first frame has so much different momentum, you're able to just get right on top of the platform after the wall jump rather than having to wait for a ledge grab. And like, for instance, you'll see players in Dark World, sometimes they'll take the stairs at the very end, sometimes they'll just jump up the raw slope. That is purely based on whether they get first frame wall kicks or later frame wall kicks on those last 2 wall kicks in the stage. So, like, there's a lot about the run, and a lot of it comes forth in TTM that is about reacting to kind of the luck the game gives you rather than executing exactly the same inputs on the exactly the same frames every single time. Commentator running out of breath trying to make his points. But Drogie making his way up to the top of this mountain super handily twice, not leaving anything on the table for Pete. It's pretty well going to come down to his performance for Reds and whether he goes for Breezeless and gets it or not. That kind of determines if he's going to leave anything for Pete to pick up here. But I'm really doubting it, honestly. Okay, he's setting his camera up for Reds, actually. Looked a little bit weird. I thought he was setting up for the box jump, but looks like that is not the case. Nice movement on his red so far. Looks like he's taking it a little bit leisurely. Missing one of them, though, having to go ahead and go back around and missing the platform this time. It's a bit of a Mario meltdown. Okay, he's got that little hitbox clip this time around. Not able to get himself up until he gets that double jump, though. Pete, was that a breezeless right there? I think Pete just got breezeless. Could be wrong. I could have just been misled by that camera, but I'm pretty sure Pete just got breezeless. So so far Drogie hasn't gone for it, and that's saving that would save him a good 5-6 seconds easy. It's going to be a little bit difficult to keep up with both of these guys because it looks like they are playing on a pretty high level in this stage. Pete, unfortunately, missing this triple jump up this slope. Drogie got both of the triple jumps there, not having to do those slow kicks, so losing a little bit of time there. Sync star grabs, one on the box jump, one on the behind the waterfall. So let's see where exactly they're at. Yeah, Drogie still maintaining that 2-star lead, but could change. Okay, Drogie going for breezeless, and it's good. Very, very free attempt from him. Very interestingly, if you've ever heard my comments before, I've kind of mentioned how Punkay has called breezeless completely free before in the past. Interestingly enough, he's recently tweeted that after years of it being basically free for him, he's had a number of failures at it recently. Is at the moment chalking it up to a mental block, but kind of begs the question, does anyone else have those strats that used to be consistent but aren't anymore, like Drogie with this snowman's head, not even being able to get the slide to even try that wall kick there. But it's okay, still on a really nice pace. Yeah, in chat confirming Pete got that breezeless nice and clean, but Drogie just going right back for matching it. Oh, and Pete having to get it second try. That was the part that I missed, I think. Meanwhile, Drogie getting it first try. Pete trying to save a little bit of time. Drogie saying, no. Not today. Nice ground pound from Drogie. That's a blind ground pound, so it can be pretty difficult to get the input actually correct and get the positioning just right. You really don't have time to react to when you actually see the box there after you do that slide. And let's see now. Drogie going to be moving now into this icicle, into the deep freeze. And it's good. That's another one that it looks pretty easy, but like your angle at the very, very beginning has to be airtight. And then it's not a matter of just hold the stick in a direction and press A at the right times. You actually have to hold a pretty precise angle there in order to get the jump to land right where you need it to get an additional jump on top of the icicle or iceberg. And Pete having the same sliding issue, having to do literally the same movement as Drogie. If there weren't different cameras, I'd be wondering if Pete was just replaying Drogie's gameplay with higher saturation. Speaking of interesting tech knowledge for the day, I actually just found this out on my own personal end. When you see streamers with higher saturation, what that could potentially mean, and when I say that, I mean there's a pretty high chance it means this. It could mean that they are using a passive splitter from either their, in this case, composite cable into their capture card. Because, oh no, Drogie missing that second MIPS grab. This could be kind of bad. Okay, able to grab him the second time over near SSL, though. That's going to lose him a decent amount of time. Not anything that Pete's just going to instantly recover from, but certainly not something that he wanted to deal with. And, you know, as much of a mental game as SM64 is, this could be something that we could see turn the race around for Pete. And Commentator, you're going to go ahead and drop the video standards conversation in favor of really focusing in on this action right now, because this could be a bit of a turning point for Drogie. It seems like such a small thing, such a small time loss, but for someone at this level, it can be hard to stay out of your own head about mistakes like that. And we're about to see if he's able to maintain his composure or if he's going to kind of let it start to slip away. If he's going to miss his one shot and one opportunity, and missing triple box jump first try. You know, I really hope this is not the start of something worse, but it could be what we're seeing. Who knows? Meanwhile, Pete exiting stage, going to be joining Drogie down in the basement. Drogie's got one of his HMC stars before Pete has even looked at MIPS. And let's see. Okay, Pete with the successful MIPS grab. So making up a few seconds over Drogie, both in terms of not having to chase MIPS around the basement and just in terms of the raw movement from not having to move from the SSL door. But Drogie so far has been making pretty short work of HMC. Aside from that single missed triple box jump, really not leaving anything to be claimed by Pete as far as time loss. So like that Christmas Miracle first try from the air, that's really not something that Pete can really match with the second try at all. So let's see how Drogie finishes out this level, but it's looking like Drogie ultimately pretty unfazed by that missed grab, which from some runners, that's what you expect. You expect them to make a mistake like that and just say, oh, well, who cares? But then there's some guys that, oh, Pete missing that triple box jump and having to get the ledge grab, already losing more time than Drogie did right there. There's some runners that just cannot get over it, and it costs them dearly at the end of the day. But it just depends on the type of person you are. It really, speedrunning in a lot of ways kind of pushes a unique part of the human psyche to its absolute limits. And meanwhile, Drogie pushing the boulder RNG to its pretty well absolute limits of good luck. I don't really think that there's much of a better boulder pattern that you could come across. And they're approaching pretty well the end of the run. Everything goes according to plan. We've got less than 10 minutes until these guys are in bits. So, you know, we're pulling into the home stretch, and as it stands, Drogie is still clinging very, very tightly onto his lead that he developed at the beginning of this race. But it's nowhere near over yet. We've got Tippy to deal with. And as we've seen so many times before, Tippy can just take what was formerly a PB pace, really respectable, good run, and just crush it into 1,000 tiny pieces. It can just destroy that one chance at happiness. So you just gotta say to Tippy, so long, farewell. I'll just tell them all you died in a speedrunning accident. And Drogie, though, with that first try Lakitu bounce and getting all the way up that pole, it's pretty well free from him from here. But, of course, that ledge grab making it look a bit iffy. It's good. Okay. Cruiser crossing the rainbow crossed off of his list right there. So getting that Lakitu bounce first try is really a huge, huge blow to Pete right now. I'm sure Pete was really hoping for him to miss that Lakitu bounce at least once or twice to give him some free time to make up, but now the ball is in Pete's court already, and that's certainly not what you want to see. Drogie going to be moving on to what was formerly a backup maze, but now that he's got Cruiser crossing out of the way, he's free to do this however poorly he wants to, which seems to be a little bit suboptimally at the moment. Just kind of flopping all over the place, having a little bit of misjudgment. Oh, this is not looking too great. He just, taking a burn there too, man. See, this is like, he keeps just barely kind of forgetting little things about how Mario moves. It'd be almost as if, like, if one thing would move Mario 16 units, he's thinking it would only move him 14. And that's just causing him to kind of flop over some of these, honestly, really tricky, thin platforms. I'm not entirely sure why the maze is just so slender on the inside like that. I feel like they could have given us just a little bit more room to work with, but I am not Nintendo, so I obviously cannot make these formal decisions. Pete, though, getting Lakitu bounce nice and handily. I believe that was first try from him as well. So certainly still in competition. Yeah, that was first try from Pete, so not losing any real time to Drogie there. I think gaining maybe just a little bit of it from a prevented ledge grab there, but, you know, Drogie holding his own really, really well. I mean, he's only got to make this psychological just gauntlet last for another few minutes, and he's got this race in the bag. But as we've seen before, I mean, if you let up just a little bit, as the saying goes, but in a much new context, give an inch, they take a mile. And if you lose focus just a tiny bit, this game will just take minutes from you. Especially in TTC, and just Tippy generally. But see, Drogie, I think, about to be moving on. Yeah, going to be going for Toad first here, so that the clock can kind of move just a little bit more. The movement to get Toad after TTC, I believe, is a little bit trickier, but it does save a little bit of time despite you actually having to wait in TTC for the stopped clock here. So it's kind of one of those, like, kind of weird things where it's like, so wait a minute, you're telling me by waiting I save time? What? And it's actually the case. So Drogie starting out what really is truly his most formidable hurdle to the end of this run, TTC 100, and it's not starting out well. Cannot get his kick on top of that platform. It's like every platform in this game, in essence, has a rounded edge because of the way the game processes its sharp edge. And that we exploit that to our benefit throughout this run, but there are so many cases where that works towards your detriment throughout. Okay, and so now he's moved into kind of the true red zone here. He's on the cusp, just about there. And one more, but failing this last jump, is he gonna be able to get back up? Okay, he's on a platform. He's not dead yet. Oh my god, okay. Pete on the same exact star as him now. Let's see how much time he can make up with this mistake. Pete's got to execute right now, though. If he makes a single slip up on this star, it's pretty well all over for him. This is huge for Pete. At the very least, he could be making up multiple brackets worth of points at the moment that would normally just be completely lost due to it being a loss. But Drogie managing to finish out the star. It's really good he didn't take a death here, but big oof on his end. Oh, but Pete ending up taking a bonk there instead of a wall kick. Fortunately, the time stopped, so the cube not rotating, but this is not a time loss that he could have afforded whatsoever right now. Ultimately, I think that fall probably eating more time off of this star than it did for Drogie's star. This is not how you wanted to see this go. Not like this. Not at all. Let's see how Drogie finishes out the rest of the clock, though, but this is certainly also something that could serve as a huge rattling point. And going for this time-moving strat here looks good. I think he's going to be, moving up for pendulums. Nice wall kick there, and it's good. Time-moving pendulums can be really, really tricky, but making really short work of it. Pete somehow picking up 3 coins along the way in his 100-coin route. I think that actually happened before the fall, so I'm kind of confused about that, but working out ultimately in his favor because the RNG from those last couple of coin boxes was just terrible. But man, oh man. Okay, Drogie more than a full star ahead now. He's got the time stopped. Going to be going ahead and doing reds now. I don't think I've ever actually seen a runner do reds in this particular order. I don't particularly object to it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of odd. But Pete now finishing his own 100 coins. So Pete at this point is really dependent on Drogie making some major mistakes at the end of TTC or in bits. That's all that would win it for him at this point. And I mean, he had a pretty golden opportunity to make up a substantial amount of time and just ended up not being able to execute and hold it together. And it's really, as we saw, it was just that one wall kick that just, it didn't come out for whatever reason. I don't know exactly what happened with that wall kick, but when stuff like that happens, it's just, there's nothing you can do about it. You just kind of have to ride the wave as it goes. And actually using the pendulum to his advantage to kind of push him against the wall there. Meanwhile, Drogie flying into that cage. So, let's see. Drogie very nearly at the end here. He's got roll into the cage. I believe his other one is get a hand. Yeah, he's gotten all the rest of them, so it has to be it. I really like his approach, effectively taking the stage from top down. We've talked about the way to eat an ice cream cone so many times on this stream, and it's because of these. It's if Drogie hadn't had I can't say his TTC 100 went well, but if he hadn't had the rest of his stars in TTC go decently well, then these would be backups that you'd have to take advantage of. And it doesn't really make sense to me why someone would purposely eat them in advance and then go for the stuff towards the top of the clock where you can knowingly take these huge falls. Okay, so both of them now with their hands on these top stars. And Pete still has a couple of stars to grab in the level, but Drogie is good to make his way up into bits. I think Pete skipped that on Toad for now. Yeah, pretty sure that's... Let's look at his star screen here. Yeah, he just skipped that on Toad. It wasn't... I was really, really hoping it wasn't 2 level stars still. Drogie, meanwhile, making his way into the sky. If he can just hit this hole, losing a good 3 seconds just to kind of passing up the hole once and then again the other way. So, kind of weird stuff going on towards the end of this run. Oh, and Pete having trouble not quite properly timing his jumps on these immobile bars. Very unfortunate stuff to see. And Drogie, meanwhile, making his way up bits. Normally, this area is pretty calm after you get that triple jump dive on the island towards the start, but It's really once you get right here and you have to commit to one of your left or right side wall kicks. Getting a good wall kick, albeit with just a tiny bit of slight Tony Hawk grinding. You know, something that everyone has to deal with every now and again. Ooh, but having to get a wall grab there, that was a Monka. Oh, man. Oh, man. The only thing that would be appropriate for reacting to that is the Monka Extreme. Jeez, wall grabbing right next to a Goomba and just praying that his hitbox doesn't interact with you. That is the epitome of luck right there. Wow. Let's see if Drogie can swing a low 50. And this bomb, oh, barely outside of that hitbox. Looks like this time around Bowser did not invest in the extended range Acme bombs. But, you know, maybe for the next race that Drogie gets involved in, that could be on his list to recommend as a purchase. As we see, that one good to go. Got one more throw left as Pete just starting his own bits. And it's another missed throw. Actually too far to the right that time. Camera angle made it a little bit difficult to see. So Drogie is 2 for 4 at the moment with his throws. Should be able to... Okay, that throw is definitely good. 3 for 5, all you need. Pete about halfway up bits, but Drogie already saying goodbye to the big Koopa himself. And with that, we've got our race held by Drogie. GG's to both our runners. Let's see how Pete's able to clutch this out, because if he's able to get a 3-throw Bowser, he's going to make a pretty considerable number of points just based on that alone. I believe he gets points all the way up until, I think, 3 minutes behind. So he's certainly well within, I would even venture to say within the 1.5 minute range if he gets these 3 throws. And let's see if we happen to be able to get either of these guys in for an interview after that race. This would definitely be one that I would like to talk to the runners afterward. Just because, I mean, there's a lot to kind of unpack there. A lot of different parts of this run that went all sorts of different ways. And now Pete finishing up with a 51-47. So, you know, about, I think that is, yeah, within 1:10. So that is, I think, about the 7th points area. So, and Drogie coming in, looks like the retime was a 50-39. And we've got both our guys in the room for interviews. So first up, Drogie, how are you feeling, especially, like what's the difference between how you were feeling exiting Rainbow Ride and now exiting TTC in the run?
Yeah, hi. I'm feeling quite I'm pretty happy with my gameplay. I believe it could have gone worse in TTC and Rainbow Ride. I haven't practiced those a lot lately, so I'm just gonna take it and be fine with it.
Yeah, certainly could have gone much worse. And meanwhile, Pete, I mean, how are you feeling after your performance? That was honestly a really, really solid run. Mainly just that issue with bomb clip at the beginning that cost you so dearly.
Yeah, I mean, I lost a minute already after Womps, and entering TTC, I was still on PB pace in TTC, but I got away in TTC. Yeah, but I think after Womps, I played really well. Probably the best I've ever played. I probably could have gotten a 49 if it wasn't for Womps and TTC, but that's just me saying stuff. But I don't know. I think I played really well, regardless.
I mean, I certainly agree. It was a really respectable showing. Really, the lead didn't exactly show how y'all were playing at any individual time. It was just that mistake at the beginning that cost you so dearly. But I mean, is there any level that you're particularly proud of? For some reason, I wanted to say Kingdom. Out of this run, because I mean there's a lot for you to choose from, because I really, really top-notch execution in a number of stages.
I was happy with SL. I golded that.
Yeah, and from our perspective, it looked really, really great too. Both of y'all kind of making the same mistake on the Snowman's Head Star.
That's my main strat.
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Because I saw someone else. It was like I was expecting both of y'all to go for the it was like slide off and then do the wall kick immediately rather than landing next to the igloo.
Yeah.
And it was like when one of y'all did it, it looked distinctly like a mistake. So I figured that when the other one did it, it was the same. So.
Oh, I made that.
Well, it certainly works for you.
Snowman's head. I'll take any snowman's head that doesn't lose more than 20 seconds. Fine.
Yeah, that's true. As long as you don't end up back down like underneath his body, that's really what matters. Yeah. And so I mean, yeah, just GGs to both of you guys. And
Thanks. GG Drogie. Congrats.
GG Pete. Thank you.
And all right, that'll do it for this 70-star race. Don't go anywhere. We've got a couple of Mario Kart Double Dash matches for you coming up in a few minutes. So stick around for those of you who've never seen, especially if you're not the biggest fan of like really glitched out racing games. Mario Kart Double Dash is really tame in that regard. Its mechanics are really solid, and it's just a really fun racing speed game to watch people do time trials in. And if you still are itching for more SM64 action, don't go anywhere either, because after those 2 Mario Kart Double Dash time trial races, we've got another 70-star race. But in case you can't stick around, it's been electric here for the Global Speedrun Association, and we're just super happy that you stuck around to watch. GG to both of our runners yet again, and we hope to see you all around.
Thanks. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.